Well, the debate over the weekend was all about whether Australia should keep the monarchy or become a republic. My colleague, Professor David Flint, explained the benefits of a constitutional monarchy on Alexandra Marshall's show on Saturday morning.
The crown is important, not for the power it wields, but the power it denies others. And that's a wonderful part of the system which emerged as the constitutional monarchy evolved, and it really only evolved after the American War of Independence. And we've had such a system since then. This is something which has evolved through trial and error. It hasn't been some academic sitting up in a government-funded office designing a perfect constitutional system adopted by some foolish political party. This has evolved over time through trial and error. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they say, and the proof here is that in everything which is good in the world, in every measure, whether it be law and order, whether it be living standards, whatever it is, you will find among the top 10 and the top 20 a highly disproportionate number of constitutional monarchies.
Well, a few hours later, the ABC chose a different perspective, stacking its four-person panel at the start of the Coronation broadcast with 3 Republicans. The first question of the night went to Wiradjuri and Walewan woman. If she identifies as Australian, she didn't say. Her name is Taylor Reid.
An elaborate spectacle for a symbol that represents an institution that's perpetrated colonisation all around the world at the expense of First Nations peoples and people of colour.
At the expense of First Nations people? Colonisation seems to have been extraordinarily kind to Reid. She's a lawyer, employed as the First Nations lawyer in residence at the University of Sydney, which has existed on what she calls colonised land for more than 170 years. She is certainly a lot healthier, wealthier and happier than she would have been if not for colonisation, before which life on this continent was nasty, brutish and short, especially for women. As for her dismissive description of the coronation as elaborate, well, it was a bit more than that. It was one of the most meticulously planned events of our lifetime, involving about 5,000 well-dressed military personnel who marched with the King either to Westminster Abbey or back to Buckingham Palace, hundreds of dignitaries invited from all over the world, an enormous but very discreet security operation to make sure it went peacefully, and a broadcast that was seen by hundreds of millions of people. It was also conspicuously woke, including a gospel choir that looked awkwardly out of place. Anyway, Taylor, do go on.
For a First Nations woman like me, a Wiradjuri Walewan woman, and I think foremost as a Wiradjuri woman, these days are difficult to navigate.
Well, I'm sure that having the opportunity to discuss her victim status on the national broadcaster made those difficulties all the more easy to navigate. Token monarchist Liberal MP Julian Leeser tried to lighten the mood.
Tonight's a night to celebrate the British Foundation of Australia and some of those traditions that have carried on from Britain that have been good for Australia. I mean, we have the stability and continuity of the Crown. We are one of the 6th oldest continuous democracies in the world.
Having dispensed with that, it was back to the finger wagging with professional victim Stan Grant, or Tan Rant as he is sometimes known.
It's nice to talk about a fantasy Australia where we share in these multiple heritage and we all live in this country where we are equal and we come to this equally. That's an Australia I'd love to believe in too. That's an Australia that our people have fought for. That's an Australia my grandfather fought for in World War II.